Do-do-do-do-do. Dun, 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 dun.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Slime. I'm Diego Pizarro, and as usual, I'm joined by Benjamin Smith.
Hello, everybody.
And this week, we're going to be chatting about why Monsters, Inc. is brilliant, fantastic, and our favorite Pixar movie. But before we get into it, I just want to say I'm going to be away next week, but never fear, we've got a special episode on our YouTube channel coming your way. So, Ben, how did you enjoy revisiting Monsters, Inc.?
Oh, it's so nice. So, just nostalgic rewatching this movie. And, all those, feelings of loving it as a kid come right back up to the top. And I just instantly am reminded why it's one of my favorite Pixar movies.
Well, when I started it, right, the first thing that comes to my mind is when I was a kid, it came in a blue VHS.
Yeah.
Going way back. Right, and came in a nice blue VHS, and that movie is just such a core memory. And I saw it so many times that, when I see the logo on Disney Plus, I'm immediately reminded of that blue VHS and watching it a million times on a weekend or something like that when I was 5.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to revisit. The movie's just got such a strong identity. It's so much fun and really holds up now and will take you out of your life and just place you in that world.
It's really great. Right when I started it up, there was that opening sequence where these doors are flying across the screen and it's 2D animated and it's playing the iconic music and it's the title screen of the movie, and it's just so awesome and intriguing from the moment you press play. This world that they put you in, and that's something I want to talk about today, is just how amazing and lived in this world is of this movie. It's just so normal. At one point, Mike and Sully are just walking down the street, and it's just captivating watching them walk about, and seeing this monster world is just so fun.
Yeah, and you see the kids jumping rope with the tongue, and the grocery clerk with all these arms, and then
yelling out to him.
Yeah, and the dinosaur when they're walking to work.
Hey, Mike!
Yeah, and he's taking
and then it's a chicken.
You hear the bark.
I don't know why this movie just cracks me up though.
Oh,
it's hysterical.
It's one of the greatest things about how it holds up is the humor. I was gonna say too, I have in my notes here, right from the go, love the opening credits.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
To back it up, even before the sidewalk scene, I love how it starts scary, kind of scary.
Yeah, it's such a great opening scene too.
You get that bit of horror thing with the arm coming out of the closet, and the kid's freaked out, and then the monster comes up and it's about to happen.
You're just waiting to see what's gonna. Yeah,
the drop's about to happen, and then he's terrified, and then
boom, comedy. This is a comedy, man, and it's a funny movie. And from the very first scene, they let you know that it's a comedy, and the characters are just so funny. I feel the humor is perfectly timed throughout this entire movie. Maybe it just jives really well with me, this movie and its humor, but it hits me in the right spot every time.
Yeah, well, and it really balances jokes that the adults can kind of get and stuff that's just for the kids. I mean, from the
Billy Crystal
scene,
stuff.
Yeah, when that monster falls over and lands on the, I don't know what they are right now, tacks, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
And screams out that automatically is already hilarious. And I mean,
that's the stuff that gets the kids laughing mostly, but having Billy Crystal as Mike is just also the comedy relief too. You're just always laughing at him.
And I love the pacing, how we're introduced to them, right? So you realize it's a simulation, and you realize this incredibly creative idea that monsters are basically going into another dimension to scare kids. Yeah. And that's how they get their power to power up the world. And immediately that's just a crazy concept. And then
it's cool the way that they show us that from the first scene. The way it's introduced is really clever, to be honest. It's completely explained to us right away.
And I just think it's so fun that they make the monsters scared of the kids just as much as the kids are scared of the monsters.
Yeah.
That's fun, to me.
We got a 2319 with the sock and everything, and they're freaking out. That's so funny too.
Well, even right in the beginning, that's why he screams, because he's afraid of the child. And, there's nothing more deadly and toxic than a human child. They're just as scared, which I think was a brilliant move to do. And I mean, and I love the pacing too when Waternoose says, like, I need scares like James P. Sullivan.
And then it cuts to Sully.
To him asleep in bed, and then Mike waking him up.
So good.
And doing the workout scenes, and this movie just never stops.
Work out that flab that's hanging over the bed.
This is also one of the most quotable Pixar movies, I would say.
You guys be surprised. Like, our close friends knows how obsessed we are with this stupid movie, but like, you should know we are obsessed with this movie.
Yeah, pretty much. And if you're in our friend group, there's a ton of inside jokes that come from this movie.
Yeah. I don't know why, like, this movie just hit me different than all the other ones. Like, it's one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah, we can't say enough good things about it, but I mean,
also it goes down to, like, if you really want to break it down, how the characters are relatable too. Very relatable. And everyone's identifiable, and they all have their own motivations and everything. Like, it's a well-oiled machine, this movie.
Mm-hmm. And they feel like I just like it's a very relaxed kind of movie, and all the characters kind of feel like people and feel very real and have a lot of personality, like, right from the beginning.
But it exists outside of our world, so all these, like, very real things are existing in another world. And it's just, I feel like a lot of Pixar movie these days, like, it's hard for me to escape to this world, but with Monsters Inc., like, from the second it starts, I'm there, and I'm just completely immersed in this universe. It's been harder for me to get into that lately with Pixar's most recent movies. And
to me, I just want to say too, like, the way they tell the story is in such a relaxed way, but they're throwing so much information at you. Like, one is brilliant after Sully's finished working out on the morning routine. Mike says, the new commercial's on, and they sit down and watch it, and that explains to you the whole process in like probably a few seconds.
It goes so deep.
And you get it, and it's like immediately there, the attention to detail is just...
That's the really huge thing with this too, is the amount of attention to detail they do in this world. And how in every scene, like, there's something happening off in the background, and that's also funny, like a spoof on our real world. It's like a play on our real world, and like, how many clever jabs can they sneak in?
And it just feels
even like the crosswalk sign was just weird and different.
Yeah, they all the little details, and it really just feels like people having fun making a movie.
Exactly.
And another thing you got to give credit to this movie for is the cast. I think the casting is brilliant. I mean, Billy Crystal really sticks out. Obviously, he's hilarious in the movie and very sarcastic. Yeah. And definitely feels the most alive from the beginning. But I think John Goodman, who plays Sully, his voice really works with that character. It's a deep, very comforting voice.
The two of them are just such a great dynamic. But I don't know, Billy Crystal just gets me. His voice is so unique, and when you hear it, you know that's him. It's awesome. And then Sully, is just he's so slow in the way he talks. Like, I don't know, perfect casting for these two. The best part of this movie.
This movie makes me want to see like a live action buddy cop movie with Billy Crystal and like John Goodman. There's enough chemistry there. Cool too. Yeah, like outside of this movie, I just think they're a really strong duo. Yeah, and really bounce off of each other well.
Yeah, they're a really, really great dynamic between those guys.
And Steve Buscemi's voice is perfect for Randall.
Wait. Oh my God. I didn't know that was him.
Yeah, it's Steve Buscemi.
Oh my God. That makes so much sense.
You hear the voice. Yeah.
Holy crap.
And it's that slimy kind of,
oh my God. I didn't even realize that.
High up voice. He just sounds like a dick.
Oh, and that makes it so much better now that I know that it's him.
Yeah. And I recognize, I don't know the voice who plays, I don't know her real name right now. Googly Bear. Whatever. Mike's love interest.
I'm looking up the cast right now.
Oh my, brilliant, and
Steve Buscemi.
Jennifer Tilly, that's who it is, who plays Celia.
Gotcha.
Well, and it's distinct. And you know what? These are really famous actors too, but it doesn't take me out of it. Like, I don't think I'm hearing John Goodman's voice. I don't think I'm hearing Billy Crystal's voice.
Yeah, and I think a big reason of that is, like, if you grew up watching this as a kid, you didn't know who those two actors were.
That might be why.
That's definitely why.
I guess that's more for the adults.
But like, if you've known about these actors since before the movie came out, then you know that it's them. But that's also why it gets like it appeals to every crowd, because like the kids want to go see it because like it's an awesome concept. But like the parents were like, oh yeah, it's been the Billy Crystal and John Goodman are in that movie. Maybe let me check that out. So just a big appeal, this movie, especially with its cast.
You know what's one of my favorite scenes? When they first bring Boo back to the apartment, and and the helicopters are looking for him and everything, and that's when you really see the dynamic between Mike and Sully. We're analyzing this so much. This is a ridiculous episode. Yeah. But he goes,
Boo is in the apartment and they're freaking out.
Yeah, but like, you know, John Goodman's all negative, is all positive and like being calm and trying to like think of a plan. Meanwhile, Mike Wazowski, you know, just yelling, screaming, running all over the place. Yeah. And they, oh my God. And you know, she starts crying and screaming. The lights are going off, and they're like flipping out, trying to get it to stop.
It's like a symphony. It's like a perfectly timed orchestra. The way that this chaotic scene plays out, and I'm just dying laughing watching it. You know, there were parts like I was sitting there watching it, and I was like engaged, but like when that scene was on, I was like glued to the screen.
Yeah, and then
just great.
And one of my favorite parts of their chemistry is like Sully finally gets Boo. Boo's finally tired, and you know Sully's just like, Mike, I think she's fallen asleep, and he's all happy, and Mike's just like, well, why don't you find someplace for it to sleep while I think of a plan? And it's just one of my favorite lines. Maybe we're the only ones laughing, but I just think that's one of the funniest lines in that movie.
No, man, I haven't really, like, to think of it, this is one of like the funniest movies, like, and it's way more funny than it should be.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, there's an association with inside jokes for us, so we might laugh at it a bit more than everybody else. No. But even still, I think like you could watch this movie and the comedy's just really nice, clean comedy that holds up.
Yeah, but even like compare it to like other Pixar movies at the time, they all exist within like the human world. You know, The Incredibles, even Cars is like in the human world. Same with Toy Story, but like Monsters Inc. is just different. Even Finding Nemo takes place in the real world, but Monsters Inc. world is somewhere else, and it's different, which now I'm just kind of thinking about the Pixar multiverse.
Yeah, how does this fit into that whole theory, which is my question.
Well, that is the big theory of how all these movies, these Pixar movies exist in the same world, and there's lots of proof online that it's true.
I hope it's true, and I think it's true. Pixar seems like the kind of team that would just have fun with that.
And that's something they started doing after the fact, though.
Yeah.
It's not like this is their big plan, is to make No. But there are hints here and there.
But I feel like when they first did it, they were probably just like, oh, let's put this little reference in here, a little Easter egg for us, people at the company. Maybe some hardcore fans will notice it. But, I mean, in here you see Finding Nemo's in Boo's room. Or Nemo. Why do I call it Finding Nemo?
And then in Toy Story, Boo appears in a scene in a kindergarten class. So at least what looks a lot like Boo.
Yeah, and one thing this movie should be praised for is even the science. Hear me out, people. Even the science, from what I've heard, I'm not an expert, I'm an idiot, kind of makes sense. I saw an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, that scientist. And he was talking about how if we found other dimensions, it would be closest to what like Monsters Inc. presents it as. He's like, I actually respect how close they got the idea of other dimensions. He's like, it would totally be like opening a door and it's just there, and on the other side it's
what?
Normal. Yeah, that's what he said. So they said they even got it kind of right on that. Like what he posed is that most.
But now I'm looking at the movie differently. Like as I'm thinking of this.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he said like even that they got right, you know, and it definitely is probably the most out there concept in the Pixar universe, probably on paper.
But it's one of the original 4. I believe it was Toy Story, Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, and then Monsters Inc.
Yeah, that crazy run they were on in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and then Finding Nemo, and then The Incredibles, Cars, Ratatouille knocked it out of the park for critics and everything. You know, it's just
Well, their
I don't
filmography is insane.
understand like where this world of Pixar came from, and like it's grown so much now.
And it's a lot of people working on it, but it really has its own identity.
Yeah,
Like they're really good at being consistent and they really balance it well because it has its own identity, but every movie kind of has its own identity within that, if that makes sense. Like they're very good at.
yep. They're all
preserving-
different types of movies. All these movies are different about different things. Like even Inside Out. Like who
Yeah.
would have thought of that?
Exactly. And it's people with just really strong imaginations.
Yeah.
But are they as good now? I think they're still a great movie studio, but I don't think they're as consistent as they used to be.
They're not as consistent as they used to be, but all these movies are still great.
Yeah, of course. But like I'm just saying, look at this early run, right? You get Toy Story, Bugs Life, Toy Story
Yeah.
2, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Cars, Ratatouille, Wall-E, Up, right?
That's
Then-
because that's the start of like.
But
you
that's
know,
a solid like over 10-year run.
the
Like,
ideas
15
were
years.
flowing. They were like they had time on their hands, but now once they've been going for over 20 years now, you know they're like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? When like back then they already had that loaded up and they already knew that was their other idea. So it's harder for them, you know.
And I just noticed after that is when you start getting the sequels and the prequels, and then these movies that aren't really as well received, like Brave, The Good Dinosaur. But see, they're still coming out in between that, like Inside Out, and then
Yeah.
Coco was really well received.
Even The Incredibles too. It's a sequel, and it came out much longer, long after, but it was still a good movie.
Yeah, I just would say they're a bit less consistent, and sometimes it really feels like adults are more into the Pixar movies than kids are.
Oh, definitely.
These days, like
I totally agree.
and it almost feels like it's respected by like certain cinema buffs. Like Soul is the one. I've never heard a kid say that movie is good, but I've met countless people my
I
age
know,
who are like,
'cause
I like
it's-
Soul.
Yeah. I mean, when I watched it, it really did get me too. But like as a child, as a kid, I don't know how much it appealed to you.
And to bring it back to Monsters Inc.,
Yeah.
just speaking, because Soul dealt with emotions and really well. Monsters Inc. does that too.
It really does. And friendship, the way it handles friendship, which is such a huge theme, you know.
Yeah, and to explain to kids, it's just such a pure way of explaining it. And one of my favorite scenes is when they bring Boo and they're trying to hide Boo, and Mr. Waternoose tells Sullivan to go in and like scare to show the students.
Yeah.
And Boo sees him roar for the first time, and you see her like crying, and then I stop every second and hear how ridiculous I sound, but I'm telling you, this movie gets to me. And then you see the stills on the screen of like his face, and she's like freaking out.
and she's so sad.
Yeah.
I know, man.
And
And
you
then
see
like
his reaction.
then Mike and Sully get stranded together soon after that, and their friendship kind of crumbles apart, and then boom, it hits you again.
Yeah. Well, don't I matter when
I
like
know.
saying that?
What about Cecilia?
Yeah.
Does it matter?
And then they bring it right back with the comedy, and the Abominable Snowman's like,
No go.
I'm gonna go make some snow cones right now. It's awkward.
Because it is a comedy, and even when it's sad, they still keep you laughing and gagging.
You know, I didn't really like that sequence as a kid. I thought that's when the movie slowed down, when they got banished.
No, I totally understand that. As a kid, it was the least exciting part, but now it's one of the best parts.
Yeah, well, I even laugh at like just Mike looks ridiculous with the mittens on his head and the mittens, and he's just
crouched
pissed
over.
off,
Yeah. Like,
warming up against the lamp. That might be my favorite.
it was also funny, like the dramatic elements of it, because like they're looking at each other and they're talking to each other, and like they're sad and they're angry at each other, and then like Mike is like, well, okay, well then whatever, and then Mike turns around, and that's it. He doesn't even walk away. He just turns around, faces the other way, and crosses his arms, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and
But then Sully leaves.
Yeah, he
and
does.
you're actually kind of shocked, like, damn, he did leave.
it's a big building part of the movie, and I mean, and I love even in that scene too, like you little world building and details where I say again, it just feels like the creators are having fun, you know. And the Abominable Snowman's like, you should have seen my friend Bigfoot when he first got banished. You know, he made a diaper out of poison ivy, was wearing it on his head. They called him Itch King or something like that. And I can just see them in the meeting, in the writing meeting, like pitching that and then just like laughing and being like, that would be fun to put on the movie.
I'm even looking at like some of the concept art here on Pixar's website for Mike Wazowski, and it's like there's one here where he's just on fire, or one here where he was furry, you know, and just looking at these designs is just really cool. And like, because his design is just awesome. He's just a ball with an eye, and they're the concept art. He was dreamt up to be, he could have been a lot of really different things. A lot of these characters could have ended up being really different things, but I think they're perfect the way we got them.
Well, and the thing is, they took their time.
Yeah.
They would have had so much time to work on this movie, and you can tell they just were given that time and they thought it out, and it's pretty much perfect. I'm sure you could find issues with it if you looked deep enough.
Yeah, but it just throws so much at you that you're just amazed every time you watch it. Like, even after rewatching it a dozen times, like, you're still kind of like, in scenes you're looking off to the sides and in the backgrounds and in the corners, and like there's always Easter eggs there, or like little cool details to look at. Like, this world was just so dreamt up and it just came out of nowhere, you know.
Then it's really well done work. I mean, we're gonna forget so many things when we look back on this, because there's just so much to talk about.
I know, but like
movie.
You even told me earlier how this movie's a lot better than most recent things that have come out, right?
Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? That's just I was thinking that as I was watching it. I'm like, this is better than 90%. That might be a little unfair. Okay, then a good chunk.
It's one of the greatest movies ever.
That's true. Whatever. It's better than most of what I've seen in the theater in the past 5 years, save for like, you know, a handful of movies. You know, and it takes you right into it. You know, it's way more immersive than any of them. It's more relaxed. It feels more natural. Definitely funnier.
Yeah, I mean, I love Finding Nemo, but that movie kind of gives me anxiety. And like, I'm kind of like unsettled the entire movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and well, it's the ocean thing.
Yeah, but like watching this, I am sunk into the couch and I'm just watching it. I feel like a kid again, you know?
Well, I was watching this with my girlfriend.
Yeah, which was probably the first time you watched it together, right?
Yeah. And I'm like cracking up, and I'm like, what is she thinking right now? Like, what?
Like, oh my god, my boyfriend is obsessed with monsters.
This is a children's movie. Literally dying laughing. Another great comedic moment when they're trying to hide the kid and they're going to put it back in the door. And, you know, it's not her door. And
that's not Boo's door.
Yeah, and so he's like, that's not Boo's door. And everybody's there, and Mike's like, put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. And everybody looks at them, and all goes silent. He's like, it's a musical. Put that thing back where it came from,
or so help me.
Bum, bum, bum.
So help me. So help me. Yeah, there you go, guys. There's your musical number for the episode.
Yeah, and then they just turn around and go back to it. And then
but just the way these characters interact, like, that's so genius.
Yeah, well, they pick it up later. Like, literally 5 minutes later, Randall comes looking at them and he's like, Mike Wazowski, what are you doing? And this guy comes going by and he's like, they're rehearsing a play.
Yeah. It's like just referencing itself the entire time, too. It's just funny. It's just creating a great world, you know?
We're just going to be jumping around here talking about...
No, I mean...
Like, we're going to forget
That's something. Okay, though, because, like, that's the way this movie is. Mm-hmm. Even, like, the thing with the CDA where they come in clean and everything like that, but like it's a fake. Like, this whole thing is a fake because the children aren't actually toxic. So this whole thing has just been like a scheme.
Yeah, really, from the beginning, right? And I don't know, they're I was trying to think of another scene. Anyway, we'll get back to it. But the CDA
because you want to talk about every scene and how awesome it is.
Yeah, like 2319, everybody knows that from the that's a classic. And I mean, I didn't, when I was a kid, like really young, I thought the CDA were something else. Like, I didn't understand they were monsters in a uniform.
Yes, it just looked weird. Like, why did that one have an extra arm?
Yeah, I thought they were like robot. I don't know what I thought they were, but I didn't understand like what they...
That they were also just monsters in uniform.
Yeah, in a suit. I thought they were some different thing. And you just, I don't know. I guess you just didn't overthink things back then.
Yeah, none of that stuff mattered. But like some of that, when you grow up and you rewatch it again, you're looking at it from a really different angle, and you understand like everything that the movie throws at you, and that's when you really start to appreciate it. Like as a kid, I just thought it was fun and awesome, but like now as an adult, I appreciate this movie, and like I see it for what it is, and like how hard work went into make it something like this. I kind of just want to make an episode now of just Pixar in general, and like this entire world of Pixar, where like we can kind of just breeze over all these great fantastic movies. But this is one of the first ones.
One day
This is one of the greatest Pixar movies of all time.
And another top tier scene.
Yeah.
When the big final action scene with Randall, and they're on the conveyor with all the doors, and they're hopping from door to door. They're in Paris.
Yeah.
And
that's so cool. Yeah. They're jumping around. Oh yeah.
We referenced it in our Star Wars episode for the opening of The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
But this is done much better. And even, again, Mike Wazowski's just on point. They end up on a beach, and he's like, why couldn't we get vanished here? It's so nice.
I know. This movie's just so great. And I'll never not think this movie isn't funny. Mm-hmm. But, I think that just lets you guys know how special of a movie this is.
Go back and watch it.
Yeah. If we're just willing to sit here and just talk about this just one children's movie, it must be because, like, maybe it is that great.
One last thing, my brain is racing.
Yeah.
The way they subtly show you that the child's laughter and joy creates more power throughout the movie. Yeah. They don't spell it out for you, and it's a kid's movie too. You just see it like building, little hits of it.
Yeah. Until
they start realizing, and Mike Wazowski's pulling his eyelid forward and pulling it back to hurt himself, hitting his nuts on the bar, trying to make Boo laugh, and and you see it start to power up, and I think that's great too. Like, even
the
in a
way
kid's
that
movie,
scene paints it for you.
Yeah, and just how they slowly build it. Like they do it small, where you notice the kid is creating more power from its laughter and joy. And I'm like, this is a kid's movie, and they didn't feel the need to spell it out, because the story still works if you don't notice that. Because they tell you at the end when Mike's doing stand-up comedy and eating the mic and doing that big burp for the kid, right? Like
now then that's the whole happy ending. Oh, they don't need screams. That laughs also works. So I still think that's really weird and creepy, and that could never be a real thing, having a monster come into your room and make you laugh, and then it just leaves, because that's just absolutely insane. But it's a kid's movie.
Yeah, and it's a funny concept. I'm sure they were just sitting one day and they're like, imagine if monsters just like came in your room and started doing stand-up comedy and just to make you laugh when you were a kid or something. I think
it's a great time and that's a great place where like the movie ended in a very fantastic way. Completely wrapped up everything in a tiny, great, pretty little bow. This movie is just consistent and perfect from start to finish. So I think we in the future we will do an episode diving deeper into Pixar as a whole.
We got to.
And we'll probably just make another episode on another Pixar movie like Toy Story, because Toy Story is just as great as this movie. So
that one, we used to watch at daycare all the time. I remember, these movies are just so ingrained into.
Oh my god, man! I love them. I just want to go home and watch Toy Story now.
What I love is, I just feel like Pixar is one of the eras in cinema, or calling it cinema just sounds weird, but in like movies, but animation should be cinema. But
they could do everything with it.
Yeah, but like I just like that I was a kid during the Pixar era. That's like one thing that I can say.
Being able to grow up at the prime age, when these movies were coming out for very, very young children. And I was a very, very young child when this movie came out.
We were the target.
Perfect match. Yeah, exactly.
They made him for us.
The target audience. So.
And I love being a part of something like that, like remembering that all these people get to say they lived when Star Wars came out.
They don't seem like a big deal anymore. Nobody cares about Toy Story or Monsters Inc. anymore. It's all about the new stuff. So, but we have these gems that like hit us because we were kids when these came out. So it was a perfect match. But That's all we gotta say.
Yeah,
About Monsters
it's a different game.
Inc.
Yeah,
About
amazing
Monsters Inc. There's also a sequel too.
Yeah, will we talk about that one?
Yeah, we'll talk about it, when we're doing our grander Pixar video, because I don't think we could talk about Monsters University for that long. No, but it is good. But
I think it gets way too much hate, just to say.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good prequel. That was interesting that they made it a prequel also.
Yeah, well, I'm glad they didn't, because I really love the way Monsters Inc. wraps up.
Yeah,
and I'm glad they had enough respect not to mess with that.
But that there will be a sequel now coming. We all know it.
But well, let's not get into that right now. No Diego negativity about reboots and sequels for today. But yeah.
That is all for this week on This Slime. We thank you guys for coming out. And like we said earlier, there will not be a new episode next week, but there will be something special going up next week on our YouTube channel, and it will be posted for you guys to check out. Thank you so much for listening to Two Grown Men Talk About Monsters, Inc.
Yeah.
For 30 minutes.
Please don't lose respect for us and stop listening to the podcast.
Maybe soon, before this is episode 6. By the time we reach episode 10, we're going to have talked about a much deeper, in-depth, adulty movie.
Yes, for sure.
So
we're trying stuff here, people.
We're just trying new things. So we thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.